Your box presents Finding Peace, written by Jess Smith. In Finding Peace, readers are invited into an honest, courageous, and deeply human journey through anxiety, panic attacks, emetophobia, shame, and ultimately spiritual awakening. This is not a clinical manual. It is not a rigid step-by-step program. It's something far more powerful. It's a lived experience. Today, Jessica is our special guest to present her book, so let's welcome her. Hi, Jessica. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Hello, and you're so welcome. I'm so pleased to be here.
So let's see, you describe this living inside anxiety for much of your life. What was the turning point where you began to see fear differently?
Gosh, really, it was coming across an online course one day and an audio that the lady had made that was talking directly to me and my experience. And having lived with anxiety most of my life, sometimes less than others, obviously, it was powerful to hear that, to know that somebody else had gone through the same experiences. So that really was the turning point, although it wasn't a kind of quick change. It was a very slow journey back towards myself.
And did this moment correspond with the moment when you started writing or had the idea of the book?
Oh, wow. The writing came sometime later, probably maybe 15 years later. So my experience with both my anxiety and, kind of how fear is created and how it is kept alive and in that cycle started back then. And then gradually there was just more and more seeing. The writing was not something I kind of expected to be doing at 62. But it came about through, I guess, just a change of direction. And then I found myself creating like a little online journal and bringing that to publication myself. And then I just thought, well, maybe I'll write my story. I'd always wanted to support my coaching clients with a book or some kind of solid guidance. So I started writing and then I just didn't stop.
Okay, let's stick on the emetophobia theme for a moment. It plays a central role in your story. Why was it important for you to speak openly about a fear that many people feel ashamed sometimes to discuss?
Yes, it's such a good question because the emetophobia was like the driving force behind all of my anxiety, I think, when I kind of look back. So initially, no one knew what was wrong with me. I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was just afraid a lot of the time. But a lot of my fear was around food and being away from home and what I was eating and all that stuff. So later on, it became clear that I had this phobia of vomiting, and it was a really intense phobia as well that I lived my whole life around, where I went, what I ate, what was safe to eat. And yet never spoke about it. I was kind of ashamed of it. And that's so interesting, isn't it? So even as a child, I was afraid and ashamed to tell people I was afraid to be sick or be around anybody who was sick. And it would appear that phobia does, that's how it kind of shows up with people. There is a lot of shame and guilt because, being a parent, being a mother, and you're afraid of your own child when they're sick is something we don't want to talk about. So there's a lot of people who suffer with it, and there's not an awful lot of information out there. And it was important to me to include that.
Another very interesting thing is that you often refer to the mind as a drama queen. How can humor and perspective help someone in the middle of, a panic spiral, maybe?
I love that question. That's such a great question again. Humor, that's what we lose, isn't it? When we're afraid, that's one of the first things that goes, is we take everything so seriously. We're already in a situation where we're in fight or flight and our thinking is really rigid. And so when someone kind of tries to remind us that we're not, we're okay, we don't want to hear that, because our mind is just very firm. We're in danger. We need to take action now. And bringing that lightness and humour back into our experience was massive for me. And the more I did that, the lighter it felt. I didn't feel I was under such a heavy, threat all the time. I would remember to see myself in a lighter way and to just see the humour in things a little bit more. It is such a powerful thing. It really is. And just keeping that open mind rather than the very closed mind that anxiety will give us. Just being curious about, well, what if the answer isn't as complicated as it seems?
And if a reader struggling with anxiety could take just one message from Finding Peace, what would you most hope they discover about themselves?
Wow, yeah, that's huge too. I wanted to give people hope, because I know that many times in my journey, and when in the darkest of moments, I felt so alone, I felt so abandoned, and I felt so hopeless. And so the mission behind my book was really to give people hope that they too can recover, that recovery isn't as complicated as it might seem. It really is about seeing more and doing less, as my cover suggests. But bringing hope back into it. So many of my clients that I coach will talk about the hopelessness. They'll talk about that I'm too bad, I'm too far gone, my problems are too complicated. It doesn't matter. I was like that too, and I truly believed that. And of course, while I sat in the belief of that without challenging it, that was my experience. And so just getting to shake up those very rigid thought patterns and be curious to what if the opposite was true. That's really what I want to bring people. I want to give them hope.
Thank you, then. Thank you, Jess, for your message of hope, for your book, and thank you for your time today. We wish you best luck with Finding Peace.
Thank you so much, and thank you so much for the interview.
With warmth and clarity, Jess Smith invites readers to see their anxious mind as a drama queen spinning stories for survival rather than a sign of personal failure. Finding Peace, written by Jess Smith, is now available in bookstores and digital platforms. It's a publication by Your Books.